Okay, so do you want me to do? There isn't much of an introduction to be done at this stage since the session's been going for a while.
Okay, do you want me to just go take it on then or not?
I'm just going to remind people very quickly. Actually, yeah, take it away and I can remind everybody and do the introduction later. It's just really a reminder, stay on mute, everybody. This session doesn't really have questions, which is quite handy because we don't need to say put them in the chat. Please remember to do your feedback later and to support the charities. They're a really good cause. And yeah, everybody knows who Resley is. She is the goddess of doing cool stuff at GSE. So I'm just going to hand over to Resley and shut up now. So
okay. Okay, the rest of the session has got to be better than the start, right? So just stick with us, folks. I was working at the London Olympics as one of the volunteers, along with Nick Chapman, who has joined us, I've seen in the participant list. And I asked one of the athletes, so do you ever use guided visualization? And he looked at me as if I had asked an Olympic athlete, so do you ever work out? And he and the people with him were all like, yes, of course we do. Guided visualization is incredibly powerful. What we're going to do is some guided visualization with the intention of boosting your creativity. And we're going to combine that with something called brain incubation. Brain incubation is when you work really hard on something and then you sort of put it down and go away and do something else. And then there you are, you're in the shower or gardening or whatever. And suddenly you have this thought, you have a solution. And you've had that yourself, haven't you? You've had shower thoughts? Yes, this is where you're in the shower and you suddenly think, wow, every letter E in the word Mercedes is pronounced differently. I'm going to give you a moment to think about that. You know you want to. Mercedes. Oh, yeah. So brain incubation, you already know it works because you've had experience of it. You can use brain incubation deliberately. Salvador Dali used to do this, the great surrealist, talk about Mr. Creative himself. He would hold a key in his right hand and he'd put a plate under it, upside down. And what he would do is just let himself relax more and more. And then eventually the hand holding the key would relax and the key would drop onto the plate and he'd sort of be jolted into being fully awake. And he said, and I have the quotation here, the moment the key drops from your fingers, you may be sure that the noise of its fall on the upside down plate will awaken you. And you may be equally sure that this fugitive moment when you had barely lost consciousness and during which you cannot be assured of having really slept is totally sufficient, inasmuch as not a second more is needed for your physical and psychic being to be revived. Well, hot damn, as we say. Einstein used a similar thing. Einstein would fall asleep with sitting in a chair, hold a glass in his hand, and let himself sort of go to sleep. And the idea was that eventually he'd be sleepy enough that the glass would fall and break, and he'd be wide awake, but he would be suffused with all sorts of creative ideas that he'd had in that little, it's called the hypnopompic or hypnagogic state, that little state between waking and sleeping. So we are going to make use of that. Can I ask you to please let me know somehow, comments or hands up icon or whatever you've got going on, if you've ever had weird thoughts in that fraction of a second between when the alarm goes off and when you're really awake, or if you've ever been like in the bath and suddenly thought, Eureka! I have had an idea. Okay, yes, I'm seeing some yeses from Joe. Yeah. And we can use this that moment halfway between sleep and wake. We can also use it. We can use it to come up with weird stuff we've never thought of before. We can use it to solve problems. Frederick Kekulé who discovered the ring shape of the benzene molecule. He'd been working and working on it, trying to work out what is the shape of the benzene molecule. And then he went into that sort of dreamy state, and he dreamt of a snake seizing its own tail in its mouth, and woke up realizing, hey, benzene, it's shaped like a donut. He was right. So we are going to use that. How's that sounding so far? Good. The only response I can see is from Aileen, and she's given it a thumbs up, so I'm just going to go with it. So you know me perhaps as Resli Costabel. I normally work as a keynote speaker and occasionally as a coach at the conference, although I do corporate training outside the conference as well. Normally, my topic is all stuff about how to be more effective and fulfilled by applying the art and science of psychology, although I do quite a lot of creativity stuff as well. I am also a qualified clinical hypnotherapist, but I want to point out this session, I know it's disappointing, it's not going to be clinical hypnotherapy. This session, I know, we'll do some trance stuff and visualization stuff, not hypno. Think of it as decaf. So if you came because you think hypnosis is cool, I'm sorry, I'm about to disappoint you. But you will get some sort of decaf, which is trance state, and you will learn a lot from it. All you need to do is, if you haven't already, make sure that you've got a blanket or warm clothes or something warm, because often when we get relaxed, your body slows down, and so you can feel a little chillier. So I will have a blanket nearby to throw over myself. There we go. And I strongly encourage you to close everything else. Multitasking is not going to work. Having alarms go off, no. Phone going off, no. People, it's just 60 minutes, less than that now. You can survive. You can do it. Let this time be just for you. And this is seriously important. You will be very relaxed. So don't do anything that you wouldn't do if you'd been drinking. So if you are driving, just turn this off and realize you can listen to the recording later. Do not drive during this. Do not operate heavy machinery. Do not sign checks. Do not do anything that you shouldn't do if you're drunk. You're not going to be drunk or feel drunk, but just, I'd rather err on the side of safety. If you have any questions about what we're doing, put them into chat, and I might well see them. How this is going to work, I will tell you stuff to think about, and you just think about it. That's pretty easy. I usually have somebody who says, I'm not good at imagining stuff. I can't do guided imagery. And I'm thinking, yes, you can. So to prove it to yourselves, could you please, and I want everybody to do this, could you please imagine, just hold up your hand, and imagine you are holding a lemon. And feel the weight of it, kind of bounce your hand so you can feel the weight of the lemon. And feel the temperature, give it a little squeeze. Is it one that's come from the fridge or from the tree? Is it warm or chilly? Just notice that. And as you squeeze, notice how firm or squishy it is. And check out the colors. Is it a bright yellow? Has it got any sort of greeny bits near the stem? Notice the colors of the lemon. And now hold it up to your nose and see if you can get a whiff of that citrusy lemon scent. The olfactory sense, the sense of smell, is one of the hardest to imagine with. So it's okay just to pretend you can smell citrus. And really feel and hold that lemon in your hand. And now open your mouth as wide as you can and chomp into that lemon. Just, chomp right into it. Deep, squish your teeth deep into the heart of the lemon. So you got seeds and pulp, and Aileen's doing it, right? Look at her face. Okay. If your mouth watered, you can put down your lemon now. If your mouth watered, if you made a face, if anything like that happened, you're great at visualizing, and this is going to work fine. So that's visualizing. What we mean by trance is it's just being a little relaxed and spaced out. It's kind of like if you're on public transport and looking at the ads, as you sit there on the tube of the train and da-da-da-da-da. and it just kind of feels relaxing and pleasantly spacey. But, you know, if anything happened, you get right up and do whatever you needed to do. It's just like that. So now we're going to the meat of the session. The psychologist Jonathan Haidt had a metaphor that's really useful. And the metaphor works with, you know how consciously you make a decision. I will lose weight. I will stop procrastinating. I will get my slides done one day in advance. I will exercise more. I will not just sit around eating candy during all of lockdown. Your conscious brain makes a decision. But your unconscious mind is saying, party, party, party. So even though you try to stay away from the chocolate cheesecake and you vowed, I will eat no more chocolate cheesecake. I will not bite my nails. It just doesn't happen. The metaphor that Jonathan Haidt came up with is it's like a rider and an elephant, where your conscious mind is the rider saying, do this, do this. I decide the direction. And your subconscious mind is the elephant, where the elephant might look up at the rider and say, okay, yeah, I'm down with that, bro. We'll do that. Or the elephant might look at the rider and say, nah, I'll do it my way. So what we're doing with trance is we're having a little chat with the elephant. And what's going to happen is your conscious mind is going to be fully aware of everything that's going on. There's nothing secret or weird going on in here. But we also get the chance to talk with your unconscious mind and have a little word with it about how you can rev up your creative juices. So I welcome your conscious mind to listen in. You will feel relaxed. You're going to hear everything. You'll remember everything that you want to. And it may take a little while for the results to come through. It's like when my mother used to take her vitamin B12, she'd take the tablet and like 5 minutes later say, I don't feel anything different. It's like, Mom, that's okay. These things take time. I don't know, it's been 15 minutes now. I don't feel any different. Mom. So the results will come over time. So first thing you need to do is position yourself so that you can relax. So get nice and comfy. If I weren't running this session and having to sit here with my laptop on a step ladder, I kid you not. You're a step ladder. You're not my real ladder. If I weren't sitting here with my laptop on a step ladder, I would be lying down. So if you want to lie down, go for it. I can't see you. If you want to stay sitting up, stay sitting up. Just make sure that you can really relax. And as we go, it's not like, oh, I have to stay perfectly still. No, you don't. If you want to scratch your nose, scratch your nose. If you think, oh, just want to adjust a little. That's fine. And you will hear noises from outside, and that's okay. They can remind you of how quiet it is inside. And I don't know if you would like to go into a trance now, or if you would like to go into a trance that's lighter, or go into a deep trance now. But I do know that you can shut your eyes if you want to. I'll have my eyes shut for a lot of this session. And as you let your eyes shut, because it's easier and more relaxing, and because when else do you get to shut your eyes during a conference and stay that way? And as you do that, your conscious mind is aware of the sounds from outside the room and the sounds in the room, and aware of my voice. And you can choose to let any sounds except my voice just be reminders of how quiet and still it can be inside. And your unconscious can start to relax now. And your conscious mind is aware of how heavy your body feels on the floor or chair or sofa. And your conscious mind remembers how good it feels to relax totally now. And the conscious mind is aware of how hard you work and is aware that these conferences are demanding. They can take a lot out of you. But your unconscious knows how to relax deeply and enjoys just to let go. And your conscious mind is aware of how very creative you can be and is aware of how creative little children can be and has seen how children can get people around them thinking more creatively. And your unconscious knows that that creative child is still within you. And your unconscious knows how to be just as sparkly and creative now as you are your whole life. And your conscious mind can listen to what I'm saying and maybe try to make sense of it, maybe give up. And your unconscious remembers all the times you've been creative. Your unconscious knows you have a sense of humor, which is a form of creativity. And your unconscious is aware that you're creative every time you find a new route to work or make a joke or have an idea or cook something a little differently or come up with what to say to someone. And your conscious mind can give yourself permission to just switch off now and just stop trying. And your unconscious can just let go. And your unconscious mind knows that your creativity can burst forth as unstoppable as a cough at any time. And your creativity can burst forth as surprising as a hiccup every time. And you can just let yourself feel relaxed. And if you need to move a little to be more relaxed, go ahead and do that. And as you let yourself step down into a deeper state of being relaxed, you'll notice how good it feels. And if you are lying down, you might want to just bend your arm at your elbow so you've got one hand sort of poised in the air. And that way, if you happen to fall asleep, your hand will come down and land on the floor and it'll wake you up. Because it's better if you're not asleep. If you need sleep, go ahead. Nobody's going to know. We've got you on mute, so we can't hear any snores. And you may notice already some of the signs of being in a lovely, relaxed trance state. So you might find that you're just kind of mentally wandering a little bit. That's a good sign. You might find that time is distorted. Because I bet you wouldn't have thought that we're 24 minutes into this session. You might notice that your tongue feels too large to fit easily between your teeth. So that's right, you're doing it right. And you're here for a reason. And you're listening to this session. And you've come quite a way already. And you're aware that you'd like to learn and let your creativity flow more and more. And that you're often most creative when you're relaxed. And you've noticed how you very often have creative ideas when you're in the shower or exercising or otherwise not trying hard to be creative. So what you can do in the future is let yourself focus on a problem or situation, work on it hard, and then just put it away, let it incubate. And trust that there you'll be in the middle of You're making a cup of tea and suddenly, surprising as a hiccup, as unstoppable as a cough, you'll have all sorts of creative ideas come to you. And as your creative thinking becomes more and more powerful, as your creative thinking becomes more and more powerful, you'll enjoy all sorts of benefits. You'll be better able to think around corners or outside the box, or however you want to put it. You'll be able to see situations from a different perspective, which gives you more options, different ideas for ways forward. You will, of course, be able to impress people. It'll help your business survival, ends that stuck feeling. And of course, it livens your brain. Creativity feels good. It's fun. And I'd like you to imagine what it will be like when you are sitting at your computer and these clever ideas just seem to keep popping into your head. Pop, pop, pop. What'll it be like? Will you keep paper and pen or something with you so you can record your ideas? Or put them into a voice memo? How about if you've gone out for a walk? I wonder whether you've ever been out for a walk before and had creative ideas pop into your head. Or whether it'll be a new experience that the next time you go for a walk or go for a roll, you'll have all sorts of creative ideas popping into your head. And in meetings, will you need to have a special notebook with you so you can jot stuff down? And will you jot it down on an electronic device? Or will you just trust that these creative ideas will come back to you? Because as you relax and you make time for creativity and you make space for creativity, your brain will want to play along. We are by nature creative, curious, eager beings. It's how we're made. You notice how children are so creative. They didn't have to learn to be that way. But sometimes we kind of unlearn it over the years. We unlearn how to be creative. So you can get back to being that full creative you. And however creative you already are, you can let that creativity expand. And I'd like you to imagine the look on your face when you suddenly have a great idea. Are you one of those people who could play poker anywhere? Or do your eyebrows shoot up and maybe your jaw opens or sort of, oh, I have an idea. I wonder if you'll use resources as opportunities to be creative. And I don't know what those might be. Those might be apps. Maybe there are people who you find you're especially creative when you're around them. Somebody where you just kind of spark each other. If you're not sure, it's probably somebody you laugh with a lot, or someone you find interesting. Or maybe it's not a someone, maybe it's a TED Talk. Maybe it's a cartoon, maybe it's a different way of looking at the world. Who or what kind of sparks and tickles your brain? Because the more you hang out with people and the more you put yourself in situations of creativity, the more you do that, the more creative you will be. Because only you can decide to let your creativity out. And it may not be until the third or fourth time it happens that you notice how much you're letting your creativity flow. And sometimes creativity flows more effectively when we're not just thinking with our brains, And that's why it's often when we're doing something where we're moving or standing or not, basically not just sitting on our bottoms, why it's often those times that we have our most creative thoughts. So when you get moving physically, you get moving mentally. It can even help you move emotionally. I know if I'm working with a client who's a bit blocked emotionally, we'll always do something physical to sort of get past that. I'd like you to imagine for a moment that you're sitting where you normally work, pondering, using that magnificent brain to think through some stuff. And I'd like you to imagine getting up from wherever you normally work, doing whatever you need to do for security measures and protocols, and then going for a walk, and letting your ideas incubate, not thinking about the problem, but thinking about anything else. Go for a walk, go for a run, have a shower, arrange flowers, do a Sudoku, something that requires a little bit of mental effort, but not huge. So read a novel, not a physics book. Watch TV. Something that engages some of your brain, but not a whole lot. And you will more and more notice that ideas just pop out. And you will notice how you have carbonated your creativity. Because sometimes the unconscious mind is a bit like an operating system. You don't see it. You've just got the interface of the conscious mind. You don't see it, you don't hear it, but it's whirring away in the background the whole time. It's what makes everything else possible. And yours is germinating ideas and solutions. And these ideas pop out and might surprise you like a hiccup. And it can feel like an unstoppable force, like a cough. Just all these ideas, boop, 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 boop. And maybe you can even imagine like popcorn, like ideas just bam, 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 like popcorn coming out of you as you're making connections. And as you sleep on it, because of course, sleep is one of the best times to access your subconscious. That's when Keikola came up with the structure of the benzene molecule. That's when the poem Kubla Khan was written, during sleep. It's when, if I've been working on this or another conference, I work away at my laptop, and then I kind of end up drained and tired and out of ideas, or I've just kind of lost my spark. And then I try to go to sleep. And even though I'm tired, I can't go to sleep because I keep waking up thinking, oh wait, and another thing. I'm either writing down these illegible scrawls that I try to decipher in the morning, or, hey Siri, make a voice memo, and lying there in bed, just with ideas pouring out. And maybe you've had that experience yourself so that you know that you can have it again and you know that you're creative. Or maybe you haven't had that yet and you're about to soon have lots of those moments where you wake up just buzzing with ideas, or where you want to go to sleep, but you keep on, oh wow, just one more great idea. Oh, just one more cool idea. And that might happen in the bath while you're exercising, when you're trying to go to sleep, when you wake up, maybe when you're driving. Because all through in all different parts of your life, you're getting so many different ideas coming in, billions of bits of information every moment, and you're filtering them out consciously, but your unconscious He's still picking up on these. Sometimes people say that that's what we call intuition. Is your unconscious mind picking out some of the bits of information coming in and coming up with a hunch. And you probably know your own stories about people from different areas being inspired by one another and people putting different ideas together. Maybe you know about the early designers of the first Apple computers visiting a gummy bear plant. And now you know why the early Macs came in all those wonderful jelly-like colors. They were inspired by the gummy bears. And maybe you'll be like, I'm going to struggle with the names now. But, human beings invented the wheel. That was a good thing. Human beings invented the suitcase. That was a good thing. So why did it take until the 70s before somebody thought, suitcases are heavy, wheels work, we could put these together? And even then, the idea took ages to catch on, because sometimes creativity is like that. You have a great idea, but for whatever reason, it doesn't catch on. But other ideas caught on more quickly. Circular saw was invented by a Quaker woman who saw a regular sort of two-man saw going back and forth and realized that there was a lot of energy wasted. She created a circular saw. The Post-it note. Spencer Silver, IBM. Playing with different kinds of glues. And this glue wasn't very good. It wouldn't quite hold pieces of paper. They weren't sure if they could use it for anything, really. But they made up some bits of paper with some of this low-tack glue and stuck them around the office to see what would happen. And distributed them, and they suddenly found that people were using these things like there's no tomorrow. I had them all over the place. Maybe you've got a few on your computer screen. The creativity was coming up with the glue. And creativity was realizing that just because it was a poor quality glue didn't mean it was going to lead to a poor quality idea. And you can have loads of creative ideas. I wonder how many you've already had and maybe you didn't notice them. I wonder how many you've already had and maybe you just haven't voiced them yet. Or maybe initially you dismissed it, but it's worth a second thought. Because you are an intrinsically creative person. I don't think anyone can make it in IT without having a good dose of creative thinking, as well as a good dose of logical thinking. And if you've ever cooked a meal without following a recipe exactly, if you've ever got lost and found a different way home, if you've ever made a joke, if you've ever been a child, then you are creative. And you can let those creative juices flow. And it's funny, because you don't have to push the river, it just flows by itself. Yes, there are lots of things you can do to enhance your creativity. But humans are by nature creative. It's part of your nature, it's part of who you are, part of who we are. So sometimes it's not as much a matter of, okay, I'm going to try to be creative. Sometimes it's just about relaxing like you are now. And just allowing the creativity to happen. Surprising as a hiccup, unstoppable as a cough. Just letting it come out. And for times when you want to add a little extra boost, there are various things you can do. One is you can imagine how other people might handle the same issue. And that might be your peers. I had terrific success with one group. They had terrific success. It wasn't my success, it was theirs. We looked at how different people might handle something, approach a particular situation that they had. And we thought about what would Richard Branson do? What would Daffy Duck do? What would the Queen do? We came up with loads of really wonderfully stupid answers. Because of course, the best way to come up with one great idea is to come up with 100 terrible ideas. But the best one they found, it wasn't a business icon or recognized scientific genius. The one they found best was when they thought, what would an 8-year-old do? How would an 8-year-old kid approach this? And you may find that when you put yourself in someone else's shoes, and you think about some situation where you want to be more creative. And I'd like you to imagine yourself right now with your toes, or your whole feet, if you can fit them, in an 8-year-old's shoes. Look down and see what those shoes are like. Are they kind of slightly worn out trainers with scuff marks? Or do they light up? Or they sort of dress up shoes? You can imagine yourself into an 8-year-old's shoes right now. Keeping your eyes closed, please. Keeping your eyes closed. Imagine what it would be like if you looked around the room from the smaller perspective of an 8-year-old. So you're probably lower down, littler, not as strong. What would an 8-year-old notice about the room you're in? Because I think about the room I'm in where I've got this laptop perched on a stepladder, and I think, yeah, an 8-year-old might be climbing the other side of this stepladder. Or might see all the sofa cushions and think, yay, we're going to make a fort. They definitely wouldn't just sit and behave on the sofas. I wonder what an 8-year-old would make of your room, of wherever you are right now. What would they notice that we as grown-ups sometimes forget to notice? What might they do? Would they try to climb on your bookshelf? Do you have some sort of toys on your desk? I saw somebody in a session this morning with a Lego model. There's some sort of toys on your desk that an 8-year-old might actually play with, as opposed to just look at and allow to gather dust. What would an 8-year-old do? What would an 8-year-old do with any situations that you want to be more creative about? And you can let your inner kiddo be creative. And every noisy kid and every noise that kid makes can just help you be more creative. And as you do that, you may find it useful to look for the second right answer. The second right answer. So often we think, aha, I have a solution. And we stop looking. You'll be more creative when you keep looking for not just the first right answer, but the second, the third, the fourth. I asked a group of petroleum engineers in Dubai, not nature's born creatives, but oh, they got there. I gave them a sheet of paper and asked them to write down 50 ways, 50, to stop a fish from smelling. And they started with freeze it, cook it, eat it. And then more and more, as they went, not for the first correct answer, or the second or the third, as they were going up to the 40th, 41st, they got more and more creative. They were saying, rub it with deodorant, cut off its nose. How do you stop a fish from smelling? Well, cut it up and shove it up your nostrils, and then you won't be able to smell anything. Now, if I'd asked them beforehand, who would come up with an idea consisting of cutting up a fish and shoving it up your nose, they probably wouldn't raise their hands. But they came up with more and more creative ideas. And as they did that, they noticed that they were coming up with more and more creative ideas for other areas of their lives. One of the outcomes for that group was they came up with a new point, a new geographical location for finding oil. They were pretty pleased with that. And when you let yourself be more and more creative over the silly things, you will find that you're becoming more and more creative overall. And maybe you can picture yourself doing this. If you just take any object at any time, and if you're bored on a, if you ever travel anywhere anymore, but if you're ever bored, like waiting for a Zoom call to start, aha, that's a good one. Waiting for a Zoom call to start, conference call. Just pick one object from the room. So I'm looking across and God, I've got loads of weird stuff in here. Okay, I see a picture frame. So you could look at your desk and say, okay, I see a picture frame or a paper clip or a pen or a stapler, anything. And challenge yourself to come up with 50 uses for it. Because when you sit there waiting for your conference call to start and you're thinking, okay, I got a coffee mug with a chip in it. What could I use this for? What's going to happen is you'll start off with the easy stuff. I could use it to hold the coffee. And you'll start getting a little more creative. I could get a few of them and build a pyramid. I could break it up and use it for irrigation, gravel, and planters. But as you go, as you keep pressing for more and more answers, you will find that you come up with more and more creative stuff. And as you do, you give yourself permission to come up with ideas that are nuts and unworkable. A few years ago, I was doing a session on how to calm down upset customers. And I didn't know what to call it, because calming down upset customers sounded boring. And I did an experiment. I opened up 2 different web pages, 2 different pools of people I'd be talking to. And on one, I said, I'm looking for good ideas for a title for this session. What do you have? And people gave me some good ideas. But on the other page, I said, I'm looking for some bad ideas for a title for this session. And people came up with loads of bad ideas. Part of what's interesting is what happened was absolutely typical. When you try to come up with good ideas, you come up with fewer, and they tend not to be as sparky. They're a little more edited, a little more safe. Whereas when you tell people to come up with bad ideas, some of it is very edgy, very out there, rather politically incorrect, ridiculous, stupid, and yet you come up with the more creative stuff. So I presented to the end client, I said, okay, here are a few from the first page where it was all very steady, worthy, like turning upset clients into happy customers. A bit boring. But then I presented them with the stuff in the second page where I'd asked for bad ideas, and out of those, out of there's like 250, I'd culled a few that might actually be workable and not obscene. The client went with one of those, and it's one I never would have thought of otherwise. The winning title for how to turn unhappy customers into happy fans was From Ass to Asset. I never would have thought of that. I never would have thought a client would like that. But when you give yourself permission to be wacky and to come up with bad ideas, you will come up with more and more good ideas. And you will come up with more and more good ideas because you by nature are a creative being. And just as you spent all the years of your life so far coming up with creative ideas, you will do so even more after this. And it's funny because some people recognize that they're creative and some people don't. And some people have these creative ideas and other people are sort of like, oh, but the person who's come up with the idea doesn't even realize that it's something special. And so here you are, you're coming up with so many creative ideas, so much innovation. And maybe at first you don't realize it. Or maybe you realize it, but not consciously. Or maybe it takes you a little while and you kind of realize later on, oh yeah, that was very creative. And it may be that as you get more and more creative, that other people will notice and say something. And it might be as overt as, wow, that was a very creative idea. Or it might be the British version of, holy cow, that's amazing. The British version being, not bad. Or maybe they won't say anything. Maybe they'll just notice, or maybe they won't even notice consciously, but it's unconscious. And maybe you'll notice consciously first. And I wonder whether it will be today or tomorrow or right now that you become more and more creative and more aware of your creativity. And I wonder whether it's starting now or whether it's already started, whether it's conscious or subconscious. And it'll be interesting to notice, is your creativity is in the workplace, and is your creativity is outside the workplace? That you're able to have this mind just buzzing with ideas, and maybe you start to habitually keep something to write with always within reach. Maybe you've already noticed that when you write with a real pen or pencil, you're often more creative than if you use a laptop. It tends to be rather freeing because using a laptop can be a little bit linear. But use whatever works for you because you already know that you're creative. And indeed, in one study that was done, they found that some people were much more creative than others, and they controlled for all the differences. This was a proper study. They looked at education, intelligence, background, schooling, race, gender. They looked at everything they could think of. What made some people more creative? Did they study music? Did they have a sense of humor? And they found that the one thing that differentiated creative people from non-creative people, the one thing is creative people think they're creative. So it's a good thing you know you're creative. And you know your creative energy can keep on flowing more and more. And I wonder, would that be acceptable to you? Would that be all right with you to be more and more creative? And if you have a wacky idea someplace where it's like, oh, not right now, you're able to remember it for later or write it down, because you can let your creativity pop out and surprise you. Or maybe make relaxed time and space for creativity. And I don't know what you'll do. Maybe you'll start taking time to do some free form writing each morning, or using resources you already have as opportunities for being more creative. And maybe you've already noticed times when your creativity flows, or times when you stop holding back and you blurt out ideas, and times when you enjoy your creativity. And as you practice and get better at it, it flows more and more. Like anything, the more you pay attention to it and shine a spotlight on it, the more of it you get. And the whole time that subconscious mind is whirring away, just like your OS in the background, full of creative ideas, making everything else possible, making new connections. And if and when you come up with bad ideas, thinking, fantastic. It can take 100 bad ideas to get one good one. 99 bad ideas to go. Let me try to come up with more. And you will find that during your spare moments, your thoughts will tend to turn to whatever issue you want to think creatively about. And those frequent moments of extra attention will keep new ideas forming in your mind, even when you're not consciously focused on them. And as a result, you'll be more flexible, better able to carry out alterations and changes of direction, less focused on perfection and I must get it right, because you'll be more aware of, there are many ways to get this right. And each time you've finished focusing consciously on an issue and then your creative mind zooms in and comes up with ideas, you can feel a feeling of pride and accomplishment, a sense of achievement in how great your brain works. Because you do experience creativity as a spontaneous, natural, and even joyous process. And when you think about creativity and how creative you can be, maybe an image comes to your mind. Now, it might be a picture, it might be a sound, it might be a song, it could be anything. And if you've had something come to your mind, you think, no, that's not right. No, that's right. When I said that about some sort of image or something come to your mind to remind you of how creative you are, I just got sort of like a yellow flash. And I thought, I've no idea what that is. It feels wrong, but I'm just going to trust it's right. So if there's an image that comes to your mind, and it might be a sound for you, it might be a physical sensation, it might be a visual thing, whatever it is, it's right for you. And later on, you can write it down or draw it if you want, just to help you remember it. And remember that your creativity will keep on flowing more and more as a result of you being a human being and therefore naturally creative, and as a result of doing a guided visualization to increase creative thinking. And all the thoughts and ideas that are incubating and that will keep coming through in the coming nanoseconds, years, seasons, they'll flow more and more and more. And I'd love for you to let me know how it goes. I love getting feedback after this session from people who realize, I've suddenly had all these ideas. Or it took a while, like Mum's B12, but then I had all these ideas. But for now, what you can do is wiggle your fingers and toes and think about how powerful those fingers and toes are, because they're part of how you interact with the world. So give them a good wiggle. And wiggle around in your chair, or if you're lying down, start getting ready to sit up. And just stretch. Oh gosh, doesn't it feel good to stretch? We can all do stretching more. And if you haven't already opened your eyes, or if they're not already open, I'd like you to picture what the room's going to look like when you open your eyes. Is it going to be kind of bright? What are you going to see? Are there people, bookshelves? What's going on? All the stuff you've hidden from the Zoom camera? And now open your eyes, if they're not already open, and look around and blink hard like this. And notice the noises outside the room that you hadn't been noticing for the last hour. I can hear a little bit of South London traffic. I've been kind of blocking it out, but notice the noises outside the room. Oh, I don't know if you could hear that. There was a lorry. And could you please, you might want to have your camera turned on for this, for everyone's sake. Make your face as big as you can. And now make your face as small as you can. Okay, thank you. That's just to ensure that you're back sort of wide awake and wakey. Please don't do any driving or operating heavy machinery or other stuff like that until you are sure that you are completely alert. That concludes our easiest session in the history of GSC, where all you have to do is just sit there or even lie there. You don't even have to keep your eyes open. So I'm going to hand you over to Aileen.
Thanks a million, Rosalie. That was a fantastic session. I can actually feel, I think I've actually solved the problem I've been trying to solve all week while that was happening. So let's see how that goes. I'll mail you later, but we might be good to go on Sunday with the upgrade. So happy days. Thank you for that. Hopefully everyone else got a bit of benefit too. So as I say, thank you so much. That was a fantastic session. And we've a lot of comments coming in saying that it was a really good session as well. Everybody knows next year, come back, Leslie's doing great sessions. So feedback, everybody, we do need feedback. Please remember to do it. And Jamie made a great comment yesterday reminding us all that the feedback, if you want your CPD hours, you need to fill your feedback in. So you can get to that through the BYOA and the little link at the bottom. Thanks again to our sponsor, who is Fit Software today. Please remember to donate to the charity, which is the NHS Together Charities. So really good cause. So that should be done. And lads, this was our last WIT session for GSE 2020. But there are tons of amazing other sessions to go to. So I'm sure everyone has loads of other great things to learn. And that's it. With that, I think, thank you so much, Leslie. That was amazing.
Thank you. And I've just now seen the comments, and I love Alison Stewart. Love your comment about, yes, that I come up with these ideas while I'm doing housework. Yes. Okay. Thank you, you geniuses.
Thank you, everybody. And with that, I shall close the meeting. See you later.
Take care. Bye, folks.
Here. Bye.